Hi, and welcome to the Soul Podcasting Podcast, where we help thought leaders, founders, and CEOs like you amplify your voice, share your message, and turn soulful storytelling into legacy. I'm Demetria Zinga, founder of Soul Podcasting Collective, which is a creative boutique agency for podcast strategy, editing, coaching, and content repurposing. I'm here to help you grow your brand and help you do it with intention and clarity. Now, before we dive in, I do want to tell you about a tool that's totally changed the game for my business, and it's called HoneyBook. I've been using it for a few years now. It helps me to manage everything from client communication to automating my workflows and even AI-powered note-taking. This platform is how I've streamlined how I run things behind the scenes. So I've added my referral link in the show notes where you can get 30% off, or you can just go to share.honeybook.com/herbusiness. And if you haven't caught episode 37 yet, please be sure to listen to that one after this one. And that's where I dive into the evolution of this podcast and the direction of my business, shifting from this hands-on solopreneurship into a more CEO-led brand and creative agency model. I had a lot of fun on that episode because I also shared the history of how I got into podcasting. So I will definitely leave a link to that episode in the show notes as well. But for now, let's talk about something that most founders overlook in their content strategy, and it's how to actually show up on the mic as the visionary that you are. Not just as a host, not just as a teacher, but as a leader. So whether you're walking the dog or driving, let this be a space for you to drop in with yourself. So just take a breath, turn the volume up, and let's get into today's episode. Authenticity in your role as a founder or CEO goes beyond being real. It's about being recognizable in your tone, in your perspective, in how you move through your message. Your voice is an extension of your leadership. It reveals what's going on inside of you, your internal state. So if you're really clear on your mission, your voice carries that conviction. And if you're uncertain or you're disconnected, your listeners will feel it even without knowing why. So no, you don't have to sound scripted. You don't have to sound like anyone else. You just need to sound like yourself, grounded in purpose. And that's where resonance lives. It's where your audience starts to trust you with more than just their time. We're going to talk a bit about why your mic presence is leadership in action. We're talking more about leadership on this podcast, and that's one of the shifts that we're making here, is that we're not just talking about the tech tools and the how-tos of podcasting, because again, I've talked about that for at least 36 episodes of the beginning stages of this show. But now I want this podcast to delve into more leadership, because I think that's what podcasters need, is just to continually remind ourselves that we're not behind the mic just because we're wanting to do yet another thing and add yet another task to our list. We actually want to lead, and we want to lead with purpose. We want to share our expertise, our thought leadership. And in order to get better at that, we have to continue to grow in our leadership and to be aware of how we need to grow. This really hits home with me right now because I'm doing so much to improve myself right now. I am reading lots of books. I'm listening to audios. I've joined coaching programs. I'm really working on self-development. And so this is what my space looks like right now. And I really would love to join with you and with others who want to be a part of this show and talk about leadership. Because that's what podcasters are. We are putting ourselves in a position to grow and to learn, but also to lead. And what I love about podcasting is that this is a medium that becomes an extension of your thought leadership. So it's not just about gaining followers, but it's about cultivating deep, trust. It's not just about marketing your offer, but it's about mentoring your audience through your voice. And it's not just being informative, as I've been attempting to do for the past few years on this podcast, giving you information on how to start a podcast, but it's about being more intentional about every word, even every pause and every shift in my tone. It's meaningful. And so as I'm changing directions, I'm hoping that we can move together in this realm of podcasting and really accept that this is more of a calling to be an influence. I've talked a bit about being an influencer on my other podcast, and I think it stands to talk about it here too, because I do believe that being a podcaster is, in many ways, being an influencer. And so we do have to be careful how we show up. We have to be mindful and intentional about what we're doing. Podcasting really allows you to reinforce your brand values, to introduce some nuance and bring your community deeper into your mission. So the more aligned you are in your delivery of your show, the more credibility you build, not only as a host, but as a voice that people want to follow. So I believe that this is how CEOs build movements. It's episode by episode. So now let's talk about what can get in the way of your natural voice. And we can name a few things that often block founders from expressing their full, authentic presence on the mic. These aren't just bad habits. They're symptoms of deeper mindset patterns that we as CEOs have to work through. And the first is that we want to be super polished to the point of, unfortunately, disconnection. And there is a difference between quality production and overproduction. You can sound professional and still lose the essence of what makes your voice distinct if you edit out every single breath and inflection or pause that feels imperfect. And after years of editing, I can tell you now that it is something that I still struggle with a bit. Because in the pursuit of sounding tight or on brand, what you really end up doing sometimes is removing the human tone altogether. And when you do that, your audience can't feel you. And as a founder, your credibility doesn't come from perfection, but it comes from your presence. If your podcast sounds mechanical or like you're reading a script line by line, that's not presence. That is performance. So just easy on the overproduction, but we want to present quality, but it doesn't have to be super tight and super perfect. The second thing that we tend to do at times is dimming our tone to be more acceptable. So maybe you've been told that you're too much, too intense, too emotional, too passionate. So now you're starting to second guess yourself every single time you feel a surge of energy in your delivery. Instead of channeling it, you flatten it out. But that energy, that was part of your signature voice. It's the boldness your listeners are craving. It's what makes them believe you. Remember, you're the founder, you are the visionary. So if you don't speak with conviction, why should your audience lean in? We want you to be yourself, and we don't want you dimming your tone. Be who you are. The third thing is borrowing someone else's voice. And I've talked about imitating others on this show because it is something that I have struggled with. When I look to other people who seem to be doing really well, it's easy to want to emulate how they approach things. Maybe sound a little bit like them. Maybe piece my podcast together kind of in the format that they do. It's easy to want to emulate or copy someone else. But there's a huge difference between being inspired by someone else and their delivery and trying to imitate it. So maybe you've internalized someone else's style, like a top host that you admire, or a business coach that you respect, or a voice from a bigger platform, right? But without realizing it, you start to pace your sentences like them. You mimic their tone. You even adopt their catchphrases. You want to sound like they do. And this is really common. Like I said, I've done this many times, and it is forgivable. Okay, it's something that you shouldn't feel bad about it. Actually, it just means that you want to be better at your craft. So that's okay. But just remember that you need to find your own voice and stick with your voice. The longer you stay in someone else's soundscape, the more invisible your own voice becomes. Your brand isn't just what you say. Your brand is how you say it. It's how you present. So remember that being yourself is everything in this podcasting space. And the fourth thing that I really want to drill down on in terms of the things that can get in the way of your natural voice is operating from an old identity. Because sometimes the biggest block is that you've outgrown the identity that you built your podcast on. And that has been one of the mindset shifts I've had to make as I've grown throughout my podcasting journey. I've had to set different expectations on all three of my current podcasts just to let my audience know, hey, this is where I am today. And I'm not who I was when I first started this podcast. And things have changed. And therefore, my goals on this show have changed. And so I've had to reevaluate what my mission statement is for each of those shows. Maybe you started as a service provider, but now you're leading a team, or you've shifted from educator to thought leader. You've evolved, and that's okay. That's great. But your voice on the show, on the podcast, hasn't caught up to where you are today. And that creates a gap. What your audience hears no longer reflects who you are now. So bridging that gap means you have to make a decision to speak from your current seat. And that's where your true voice lives. You have to speak from where you are today. So sometimes you'll have to make amends and close that gap by making an announcement on your show that things have changed for you and where you're going from this day forward, how you're shifting things on your show. And that is going to help free you to be yourself and be who you are today. It doesn't mean you need to shut down your show or start a brand new one unless that is part of your goals and what you want to do. And it also doesn't mean that you have to continue being who you were and showing up the way you were, because you can't be true to yourself if you do that. So just let your audience know where you're going and recalibrate and continue on. So let's get into this idea of anchoring your authentic presence. And you're probably wondering, what do I mean by anchoring? Because when I think of an anchor, I think of a ship that sails in the middle of the ocean and needs a place to dock and to land. And there's that anchor that it has to throw down on the shore so that it can have this stability and it's not floating out there in the middle of the ocean. It has an anchoring space. So now that we've named the blocks, the mental blocks, let's talk about the practices that help root you into your voice of being a CEO. So I'm speaking founder to founder. I know that you listening to this show today may very well be a CEO yourself, a business owner, a founder. And so I'm speaking to you from that perspective as well. Because when your voice feels aligned, the microphone becomes less of a task and more of a tool for you. So you want to speak from conviction, not just content. Once you're grounded, you can start speaking from conviction. Once you're no longer floating around in the middle of the ocean and you found your anchoring spot, now you can speak from your truth. So before you hit record, you have to ask yourself, why does this episode matter to me right now? And how does it matter to the people that I serve? And that becomes your anchor. And this isn't just about manufacturing passion in your delivery, pretending that you're passionate, but it's about tuning into the fire that already exists in your mission. The more conviction you have behind the message, the less you're going to need to perform. So you're going to speak differently when you're connected to that why behind your words. So there's a couple of things you can do that might help you to regulate your energy and get you grounded and calmed enough to be able to do the work. If it feels like a chore to get on the microphone, just remember that each time you show up, you're doing yourself a favor, you're doing your business a favor, you're doing your listener a favor. But it can feel like work. And once you're grounded, even if it still feels like work, there are some things you can do to kind of motivate yourself. And there are a couple of rituals you can do or things that you can bring into your routine that help to make you more excited about the work of podcasting. And here are a couple of things I recommend that I actually do that make me happy. And one of them is just taking a deep breath with my hand over my heart before I start. I know it sounds a little woo-woo and a little loopy, but hey, this is what I do because it helps ground me. So find what works for you. But for me, it would be taking a deep breath. It's lighting a candle. It's sipping on something warm. Usually it's a tea. For me, It's saying a short prayer before I get on the microphone. Sometimes these rituals like this can help to calm you down so that you are in a space to actually share. Every time you're on the microphone, remember, you are sharing your truth with the world, and it takes energy out of you to share. So this is not something that you should take lightly or allow anyone to make you feel like it's something that you should take lightly. Remember, this is work, and it's work from your heart. When I called this show Soul Podcasting, I was really literally thinking of podcasting from the soul, meaning putting your whole heart and soul into what you do. And that is, if not done correctly, an energy drainer. But if done well, it could be an energizing force that you give to your listener. And even though that energy is coming from you, it won't be tiring and draining for you if you know how to refuel yourself and to prepare to do this work. Whether you're podcasting once a week, once every other week, once a month, it's still a task, and it's something that you have to be mentally and emotionally ready for. It's giving back to your listener. It's giving back to your audience. And giving and sharing takes time, and it takes emotional energy. It also takes mental energy. And not to mention, if you're also editing afterward, that takes a lot of time and energy as well. So this isn't about being woo. Again, it's about creating spaciousness before you step into the spotlight. And you need that time and that space. Also, just remind yourself that when you're talking on your microphone to the world, you're not really talking to the world. You're not really talking to the crowd. You're speaking to one person. So I want you to think of it as a friend or that one person that you really want to reach and talk to them, right? You're not giving a TED talk. You're building trust. Pick one person you want to impact, whether it's your dream client, a past coaching student, or someone who would really feel this content, and visualize that person. And now just talk to them, not your whole entire audience, just that one person. This simple shift creates intimacy, and that intimacy makes you instantly more relatable. And you do want to protect some of the human elements in your post-production. So after you've done all of your recording and you've spent a lot of energy pouring into your audience, you want to remember that as you're editing, that you want to keep some of that humanity in your final audio. So your breaths, your pauses, your emotions, kind of the rhythms and the cadence of how you speak, you want that to be part of your show. Your natural cadence is not a flaw. If some people have told you speak too slowly or too fast, remember that's who you are. So it's your fingerprint, and it's how people can feel that energy coming from you. So we don't want to edit out every single and ah and every single pause, because that's part of your flow. When we edit podcasts at Soul Podcasting Collective, we don't just clean your audio. We protect that energy that makes you who you are. We help you sound clear and confident without stripping the message of its weight or the tone, because how you say it is part of what makes it land. So we want to keep that. And lastly, before some of our final takeaways and our call to action, is that I want you to remember, you don't need to find your voice. You need to remember your voice. You've already got it. You've got this. The way you explain things to your team or to your coworkers, the way you talk to your clients when you're in your flow, the way you storytell when you're off the mic, it's how you thrive. It's how you talk. It's how you communicate. You're relaxed. You're real. That's the tone that we want you to bring to your podcast. Your voice should carry the essence of your brand and your culture and your character and your background, your experiences, your personality. All that should be infused in your show. And it should sound like a continuation of who you are in every space that you're leading and that you're serving, right? So again, I can't reiterate this enough, but I want you to just be yourself. That's what I'm saying. Your voice is not an afterthought. It is a strategic asset that you have, and how you show up on the microphone just reinforces how you lead your business and your team and your movement. So if you're ready to stop second guessing your sound and you want to start leading your podcast with presence, we are here to support that journey. So don't forget to check out the show notes for more information on what we've talked about. We are here to support that journey. I am so thrilled that you've decided to listen to this episode today. Also, for more background on why this podcast and my business has shifted, you can listen to episode 37, where I walk you through my evolution and the vision behind this next phase. And yes, we've got guests coming very soon. So these conversations will take us even deeper into purpose and presence and thought leadership and marketing and all the things that we need as podcasters. So make sure you stay subscribed so you don't miss a beat. And you can also DM me at Soul Podcasting on Instagram. You can visit me on LinkedIn at my name, Demetria Zinga. And you can also visit me at my website for more information on how our team can help you bring strategy, soul, and clarity to your next season for your podcasting edits at soulpodcasting.com. And I can't wait to share more with you next week. Until next time, happy podcasting.